Yo, Bolt fam, the front office really shook the table today. We've got roster decisions, trade buzz, defensive questions, and moves that could ripple through the entire AFC. And let's be real, this matters because it's starting to show what this team actually wants to be in 2026. Curious, is there finally a real blueprint here? Or are they still patching holes and hoping talent covers the cracks? One of these moves could change everything. And I'm not gonna lie, some of this is exciting, but some of it should absolutely make Chargers fans nervous. Exhales sharply. So buckle up, because this thing gets interesting fast. Everybody sees Benjamin Juste walking and thinks the same thing right away. Unnecessary loss. And honestly, on the surface, that's fair. He fit the scheme, tackled well, played disciplined zone coverage, and became a useful piece in a secondary that needed reliability. So why let a guy like that leave for a 2-year, $10 million deal with Green Bay? Because to this front office, the equation is never just about the player. It's about the player, the price, the development pipeline, and most of all, the compensatory pick formula. And that's where this gets real. This move says a lot more about Joe Ortiz than it does about St. Juste. The thinking seems pretty clear. If Chris O'Leary and Steve Clinkscale believe they can find another useful corner in the draft or on the cheap, then losing St. Juste now might actually create 2 wins. You save money, open flexibility, and strengthen your shot at another comp pick, especially with Ooway landing that massive contract elsewhere. It's cold, it's not flashy, it doesn't win the press conference, but it's exactly the kind of move a front office makes when it's betting on process over comfort. Still, here's the problem. This roster already had too many holes going into the offseason, so when you turn one of your steadier spots into another need, the margin for error shrinks in a hurry. St. Juste wasn't some lockdown superstar, but he was functional. And contenders aren't built with stars alone. They're built with players like that, guys who understand the system, hold down snaps, and keep the whole thing from wobbling when injuries hit. That matters. Maybe more than fans want to admit. So now the fan base is split. One side says, trust the process, collect the pick, and go find the next guy. The other side says, how many times can this team trade present-day stability for future value before it finally burns them? Both sides have a point. Because yes, maybe they hit again on a reclamation project. But what if they don't? What if the replacement is raw? What if the secondary becomes a weekly headache in year 1 under a new defensive coordinator? That's the kind of decision that looks small today and feels huge by October. And then there's the move that could hit back with force. Because losing Ooway stings, no way around it. He leaves for a monster 4-year, $100 million deal, and suddenly that trade from October feels like one of those NFL deals where everybody walks away shrugging. The Chargers got Ooway and a 7th. Baltimore got Alohi Gilman and a 5th. Now Ooway is gone, Gilman lands with the Chiefs, and the Ravens still might come out ahead depending on what they do with that pick. That's brutal. That's the league. And that's why this next possibility feels so important. If Dallas is really open to listening on Osa Odazua, the Chargers need to be in that conversation. Seriously. Because this isn't just another defensive tackle. This is the kind of interior disruptor teams spend years trying to find. He can hold up against the run, collapse the pocket, hit quarterbacks, and bring real juice from inside. That changes everything. Put him next to Tier Tart, keep Kahil Mack on the edge, let Thule keep rising, and suddenly Chris O'Leary isn't just trying to survive his first year calling the defense. He's got a front that can punch people in the mouth. Think about what that does. It changes third down. It changes pass rush lanes. It changes how fast the quarterback has to think. And in an AFC loaded with quarterbacks who will absolutely shred you from a clean pocket, that matters more than almost anything. The contract is hefty, sure. The cap hits are real. So here comes the big debate. Do they go big on one difference maker, or do they spread those resources across multiple holes? Volume or impact? Depth or danger? That's a real football argument right there, and Chargers fans should be split on it. Because if they pull off a move like that, it stops feeling like maintenance. It starts feeling like a statement. But hold on, because the biggest swing might not even be on defense. Imagine SoFi exploding as Justin Herbert uncorks one deep and the ball drops right into the hands of A.J. Brown. Just picture it. Because that rumor, that's not just internet fantasy anymore. Brown has been linked to the Chargers, and if the Patriots have cooled off after their latest move, that door might be opening wider than people think. And if it does, this could be the kind of move that changes the entire ceiling of the offense overnight. This is bigger than star power. A receiver like A.J. Brown tilts the field. He changes coverages before the snap. He forces help. He opens space for everybody else. He gives Herbert a margin for error that most quarterbacks dream about. And when you pair an elite quarterback with a dominant wide receiver, the offense doesn't have to be perfect on every drive. Sometimes one throw, one broken tackle, one mismatch is enough to flip the game on its head. Now sure, there's risk. Brown is expensive. The trade compensation would hurt. He's got a strong personality, and the public frustration in Philly hasn't exactly been subtle. Some teams see that and get nervous. Others see a fierce competitor who wants the ball because he knows he can break the game open. That's why this rumor is so fascinating. One side says this is exactly the bold move the Chargers never make and absolutely should. The other side says don't blow premium assets on one receiver when the roster still has multiple needs. Again, fair. Again, complicated. But here's the scary part, scary for the rest of the league anyway. If Brown lands in this offense, it doesn't just upgrade one spot, it upgrades the ecosystem. Herbert gets cleaner answers, the run game gets lighter boxes, the other pass catchers get softer matchups. The whole thing starts breathing easier. And that's when an offense goes from solid to dangerous. That's when defensive coordinators start losing sleep. If that idea sounds even remotely worth it to Bolt fam, smash that like button and subscribe, because this offseason is heating up in a hurry. And drop your take in the comments. Which move would hit harder, trading for Osa or swinging for A.J. Brown? Because that answer says everything about how this fan base sees the future of this team. And while everybody is focused on the splashy possibilities, the Chargers also made a move that quietly tells you a lot about how they want to build this roster. Re-signing Phillips to a 2-year deal might not dominate headlines, but it matters. A lot. He wasn't just useful last year, he was an impact special teamer, second-team All-Pro, flying around, making tackles, bringing juice every single week. He played on 80% of the special team snaps. That is not random, that is trust, that is value. And honestly, I like this move. Because serious teams stop treating special teams like an afterthought. They understand hidden yards matter, field position matters, momentum matters. One great coverage rep can flip a drive. One hustle play can tilt a game. We've all seen close games swing on the little stuff, right? That's where players like Phillips earn every cent. Now connect all of it. They let Juste walk because they trust the formula and their development pipeline. They could be lining up a major response in the trenches with Osa. They might have a real chance to transform Herbert's offense with A.J. Brown. And in the middle of all that noise, they lock in one of the core pieces of their third phase. That tells you this front office isn't just chasing headlines. They're trying to build layers, structure, balance, sustainability. Of course, some fans will say paying a premium for a special teams ace when the roster has bigger holes is a luxury. That's a fair argument. But it's also dangerous to dismiss these pieces too quickly. That's how teams lose identity. That's how depth erodes. That's how one small weakness turns into a massive problem in December. So now the question gets heavy. What should this front office prioritize from here? The safe build, the splash move, the trenches, the weapon for Herbert? Because these 4 stories all point to the same truth. The Chargers are at a crossroads. They can keep building patiently and trust the system, or they can throw a haymaker and try to change the whole picture right now. And that's the conversation. St. Juste raises questions. Osa looks like a possible answer. A.J. Brown feels like the dream swing. Phillips proves the little things still matter. So what should matter most to this team today? Patience or pressure? Balance or aggression? Long game or all in? Bolt fam, sound off. Which path gives the Chargers the best shot to actually break through?